When you think of a relaxing vacation, a stay on an island paradise might come to mind. After all, be it the Caribbean with its incredible resorts, or the Greek islands and their untouched beaches, there are many islands out there that are perfect for a weekend getaway. However, there are some islands out there that are not so peaceful. So, in today's video, we're going to count down the 15 most dangerous islands in the world. Number 15. Devon Island. While planet Earth is filled with uninhabited areas, Devon Island is one area that's especially severe. Considered to be the largest uninhabited island in the world, it's located in Canada's far north and has been called Mars on Earth by many researchers. This is because Devon Island is almost completely devoid of any vegetation or signs of life, and its desert setting and harsh climate is very similar to the conditions on Mars. As a result, the island's barren terrain, freezing temperatures, isolation, and remoteness has made it a prime spot for a NASA researcher to determine how a settlement on Mars could potentially function. And year-round, there's a small permanent research station that allows NASA to conduct tests. However, with the exception of this research station, Devon Island is practically devoid of all other life. So if you were to end up stranded here, chances are that you would not live to tell the tale. Saba. The Caribbean is known for receiving its fair share of hurricanes, yet the island that holds the record for being the most battered of them all is Saba. That's because ever since official tracking began in 1851, it's been hit with more tropical storms than any other Caribbean island, making it an extremely dangerous place to visit long-term. Yet even if you are just a short-term visitor, you'll still need to be careful, as Saba is notorious for its extremely dangerous airport. With a runway that's just under 400 meters long, it's very difficult for planes to land here. And this is made worse by the fact that this runway is on a rocky outcrop that has 3 cliff edges over the surrounding waters of Cove Bay, and a 4th side that's enclosed by steep hills. This often necessitates a full 180-degree turn right before landing in order to get the airplane in a safe position, and as a result, only regional propeller aircraft flights provided by the airline Winair are allowed to touch down at the airport. So, whether you're planning on going to Saba for a long time or a very short time, just be aware that there are some very real dangers involved. Number 12. Miyake Jima Island. Japan. It's a country that's rich in cultural and natural beauty, and Miyake Jima Island is no exception. It's located about 180 kilometers south of Tokyo, and on the surface, it's a beautiful place to set up shop. But in reality, its 2 active volcanoes make this all but impossible. Known as Mount Oyama and Mount Mihara, both have erupted numerous times over the past 100 years, with the most recent major eruption happening in the year 2000. It was in this year that Mount Oyama erupted suddenly and without warning, spewing ash and lava for several months and forcing the island's 3,000 residents to flee. While this was bad enough, the copious amounts of poisonous gases that came out of the volcano meant that the residents couldn't return until about 2005, and it was only in 2008 that planes began to land at Miyake Jima once more. Yet, while the residents may have returned, the reality is that Miyake Jima is far from safe. The volcanoes are still active and the gas levels are so noxious that residents have to carry gas masks at all times to protect themselves from this toxicity. As a result, Miyake Jima Island is largely ignored by tourists and Japanese citizens to this very day. Number 11. The Island of the Dolls. If you believe in ghosts, then the Island of the Dolls may just be one of the scariest islands on the planet. Located along the canals of Mexico City, the story of the island begins with its previous owner, Julian Santana Barrera. That's because while he used it to lead a relatively normal life, one day on the island he saw a drowned girl wash ashore, and soon after this experience, the girl's spirit began to haunt him. In an effort to appease this spirit, he began to collect dolls from local garbage dumps and place them around the island, hanging them on trees in her honor. Over a period of 50 years, he accumulated thousands of dolls, and while Barrera has since passed away, these rotting dolls stand as a testament to his work. If this macabre display is of interest to you, you can visit the island and its many dolls, although I warn you that visitors often report very strange occurrences. For example, many have caught the dolls blinking, whispering, and moving in unexplainable ways, and by many accounts, the island is still haunted by the little girl that tormented Barrera for decades. So while the Island of the Dolls may be an interesting site to visit, there's a very real chance that you'll have a brush with the paranormal while you're there. Number 10. Papua New Guinea. While many people enjoy traveling in Southeast Asia and Oceania, you may want to consider a trip to Papua New Guinea. Located on the eastern half of the island of New Guinea in the southwestern Pacific Ocean, it's dangerous for several different reasons. First and foremost, crime is a serious problem across the country, and the capital city of Port Moresby is particularly problematic due to the fact that its extremely high rate of violent crimes such as robbery, assault, kidnapping, and murder have earned it a top spot as one of the most dangerous cities in Asia. Mostly caused by poverty, a lack of education, and the availability of firearms, both Port Moresby and the country of Papua New Guinea as a whole are in quite a bad spot. And this is made worse by the island's rampant corruption. For example, the police on the island are known to partake in the gun trade and to drive drunk while on duty, forcing many with the means to do so to buy private drivers and security. To make matters worse, diseases such as malaria, tuberculosis, and HIV/AIDS run rampant. And if these diseases don't get you, one of the island's several active volcanoes can claim you as a victim at any moment, as eruptions that cause widespread damage are quite common. Therefore, while Papua New Guinea has beautiful natural scenery and some great people to boot, I'd suggest finding a safer tropical destination for your next vacation. Number 9. Tilafushi Island. When it comes to islands, there are few as trashy as Tilafushi Island. It's better known as Trash Island. It's a small artificial island created in 1991 for the express purpose of being filled with rubbish. Located in the Maldives near the capital city of Male, it was made by dredging up sand from the sea floor, and the end result has been an island that's approximately 2.5 kilometers long and about 0.5 kilometer wide. Home to a solid waste incineration plant, a composting plant, and a recycling plant. These facilities all process the garbage that comes from the Maldives' various atolls, and generally speaking, everything that's sent there is either buried, burnt, or in the case of some plastics and metals, recycled. Now, the interesting thing about all this rubbish is that much of it comes from not the Maldives' citizens, but rather the many 5-star luxury resorts that operate on the islands, as these produce inordinate amounts of waste in order to pamper their ultra-wealthy customers. Unsurprisingly, putting all this waste into one island has created its own host of problems, as its large landfill is often overfilled, which in turn causes major issues such as contaminated drinking water and the dirty bays around the other islands. As such, unless another trash island is made or ways are found to make more of the Maldives' trash more recyclable, there's a very real possibility that Tilafushi Island could be ground zero of an environmental catastrophe. Number 8. Kashem Island. When it comes to illegal activities, Kashem Island is a hotbed of activity. It's located in the Gulf of Oman and within the territorial boundaries of Iran. The 135-kilometer-long island isn't exceptionally large. Yet despite its small size, it's home to several tribal groups that have a long history of conflict and violence. Due to its strategic location at the mouth of the Persian Gulf, it's been frequently attacked by invaders, with these including Elamites, Umayyads, Abbasids, Portuguese, and English. Unfortunately, this chaos has continued into modern times, as Kashem Island has become a hub for drug trafficking and luxury goods smuggling into Afghanistan, Pakistan, and the Gulf states. Ground zero for conflicts between the Iranian Coast Guard and smugglers. The majority of Iranian patrol boats turn a blind eye on the condition that the smugglers pay about $110 per boat. Due to the island's remote location and lack of infrastructure, it's difficult for Iranian police to control that area. Beyond the illegal activity, Kashem Island also has a number of venomous snakes, cobras, reptiles, and due to the rocky terrain, these creatures can often hide well and strike without warning. Yet despite all these dangers, Kashem Island has a rich cultural heritage, as it's home to a number of ancient ruins and historical sites that date back to the pre-Islamic periods. So while it's possible to visit Kashem Island and have a great time, it's probably best to stay safe and find a different vacation spot. Number 7. Bikini Atoll. On the surface, Bikini Atoll looks like a tropical island paradise. Located in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, the atoll is a small ring-shaped reef surrounding a 40 by 24 kilometer oval lagoon, and it consists of a total of 23 small coral islands that are filled with beautiful beaches, palm trees, and otherwise stunning scenery. However, while the Bikini Atoll may be beautiful, both it and several other spots within the Marshall Islands share a dark history. That's because from 1946 until the early 1960s, Bikini Atoll and nearby Enewetak Atoll were classified as the so-called Pacific Proving Grounds by the United States government, and it was while under this classification that more than 20 nuclear devices were tested in the area. Unsurprisingly, detonating 20 nuclear devices in a small area did a number on the island's radiation levels, and to this day, high levels of cesium-137 and other forms of radiation continue to be recorded across the atoll. Given the fact that Bikini Atoll and the surrounding islands have a population of about 60,000, this radiation is a pretty big problem, as it's led to serious physical deformities and health problems in the island's residents. In response, the United States agreed to the Compact of Free Association with the Marshall Islands, which stipulates that the U.S. government is obliged to resolve personal illness claims arising from its nuclear testing in the area. To date, the U.S. has paid out an astounding $125 million in damage claims, this being a true statement to the fact that a visit to this radioactive island would be nothing short of disastrous. Number 6. When it comes to danger, Fraser Island is a place that's rather deceiving. It's located about 8 hours north of Brisbane. The island's well known for its absolutely stunning beaches, and as a result, locals and tourists alike often make the trek to the island in order to enjoy its natural beauty. However, despite its great looks, Fraser Island is also known for being a hangout spot for many dangerous species of animals. For example, the island's waters are infested with great white sharks, jellyfish, and poisonous stingrays, and as a result, practically no one makes the often fatal decision to go for a swim. If you instead decide to soak in the sun, you'll perhaps be even in more danger, as about 30 packs of wild dogs known as dingoes are known to roam the island. While it is true that most dingoes are naturally scared of humans, the ones at Fraser Island have lost this fear over time, and in recent years there have been an increasing number of attacks by packs who hope to make human tourists their next meal. Beyond the animals, the ocean at Fraser Island itself is known for being exceptionally rough and filled with powerful riptides. And since there are no lifeguards nor any warning flags, tourists who go for a dip often get washed away by strong currents. If that wasn't bad enough, Fraser Island's nowhere close to any hospitals, and if you get attacked, hurt, or injured in any way, you've got no choice but to be airlifted to the nearest medical facility at your own expense. As a result, while Fraser Island is a relatively popular tourist spot, I'd suggest visiting a far less risky island getaway. Number 4. Snake Island. If you've got a fear of snakes, then Snake Island is probably a place you'd want to avoid. Officially known as Ilha de Camara Grande, it's located off the coast of Sao Paulo in Brazil, and it easily has one of the densest snake populations in the world. Home to between 1 to 5 snakes per square meter, this would not be too big of a problem if these were small, harmless garter snakes. However, the reality is that the snakes of Snake Island are some of the deadliest in the world. Belonging to a species known as the golden lancehead, they truly pack a punch in their bite, as their incredibly venomous bite is strong enough to induce terrible symptoms such as blood in the vomit and urine, intestinal bleeding, kidney failure, hemorrhage in the brain, and severe necrosis of muscular tissue. And as a result, the golden lancehead is widely considered to be one of the most venomous snakes on the planet. Yet, despite these defense mechanisms, the golden lancehead is considered to be critically endangered. That's because it's only found on Snake Island, where it survives by preying on the migratory birds that stop there to rest. However, the good news is that very few people disturb their habitat, as while the lighthouse keeper and his family used to live on the island many years ago, after their lighthouse was automated in the 1920s, no humans have lived on the island long term. In fact, the Brazilian Navy now patrols the island and bans almost everyone from entering, with the only exception being the maintenance teams that come in to repair the lighthouse once a year, and small groups of scientists that enter for research purposes. And given how deadly this island is, it's probably best that only trained professionals are allowed onto it. Number 3. Farallon Islands. While the Farallon Islands may be beautiful, there are many reasons to leave them be. Located off the coast of San Francisco, this island chain is known for having a wealth of wildlife. Yet what makes these islands stand apart is their status as a nuclear dumping ground. You see, throughout the Cold War, the United States was constantly testing nuclear weapons, and it was decided that the Farallon Islands would be the perfect place to store contaminated lab equipment. Once all was said and done, the highly radioactive hull of the USS Independence and a total of 47,500 208-liter steel drums of nuclear waste were left there, making the area extremely radioactive. However, U.S. authorities claim most of the radioactivity here has decayed by the 1980s, yet given the fact that this claim is a little bit suspect, many still believe that the Farallon Islands are still not safe for human habitation. If this wasn't bad enough, these islands also have their fair share of natural dangers. After all, they are home to some of the strongest currents on the west coast, making it very easy for small boats to capsize and become wrecked after hitting against the rocky shore. In fact, the most recent capsizing happened during a boat race in 2012, causing the sailing yacht Low Speed Chase to wreck and kill 5 of the 8 crew members on board in the process. Beyond the geography, the area is also home to a large population of sea lions, and while this has convinced organizations such as Point Blue Conservation Science and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to set up research stations there, it's also convinced large quantities of sharks to migrate to the area, making swimming or scuba diving a risky endeavor. So, yeah, it's fair to say that the Farallon Islands are a pretty risky place to visit. Number 2. Rambo Island. While Rambo Island may look like a tropical paradise, it's got one thing that historically made it an absolute hellhole. It's swarms of saltwater crocodiles. These things can come in at about 7 meters in length and 900 kilos in weight. Thousands of these crocodiles used to live on the island, and this is a fact that hundreds of Japanese soldiers found out the hard way in World War II. The story goes that in January of 1945, the British were looking for a new island to use as an airbase against the Japanese, and Rambo Island appeared to be the perfect location. As a result, the British sent troops to secure the island, and in order to do so, they had to engage in a firefight with the Japanese. After a tough battle, the 36th Indian Infantry Brigade outflanked a Japanese position, splitting the enemy group in two and isolating about 1,000 Japanese soldiers. While the British called on them to surrender, it was deeply ingrained in the minds of the Japanese soldiers that surrender was dishonorable, and so rather than do so, they chose to regroup by making their way through a 13-kilometer-long mangrove swamp. At first, it was the normal tropical maladies such as diseases, dehydration, and starvation that began to wear away at the soldiers. Yet at some point or another, the troops came across a large colony of crocodiles. Stuck in thick mud and unable to fend them off, the crocodiles began to savagely attack the Japanese soldiers, and once all was said and done, it's believed that about 520 of the initial 1,000 soldiers were killed in the encounter, with some even arguing that the death toll was even higher. To date, what has now become known as the Rambo Massacre still holds a Guinness World Record for being the deadliest crocodile attack in history. And while it has been reported that Rambo Island now has far less crocodiles than it used to, I think you'd agree that a walk through the island's forests would be a pretty terrible idea. It's about the more obscure subjects in our world. Sit back, relax, and binge watch all of our best and most obscure videos.